The New York Jets, they've wrapped up veterans minicamp this past week, and while the headlines were positive, the questions that loom large are there. Is Justin Fields really the guy? Can Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall thrive in this new look offense? And who is worth drafting from this roster in fantasy football? I know the fantasy football fans out there already. So I'm joined now by Justin Henry. He is the founder of J-Hen Fantasy, and he's here with me to break down the biggest questions surrounding Gang Green and help you get ahead of the curve for 2025 fantasy season and beyond. Just, what's going on, man?
Well, minicamp is here. We got fantasy we can talk about. I know a lot of people do dynasty drafts, but football is back, baby. It's in our face right now. We're catching on the minicamp vibe, so can't wait to discuss, especially with Gang Green, man. They had a rough season last year.
Yeah, they did. People say football's back, and I'm always like, did it ever leave? Because it feels like it never left. It feels like it never left at all whatsoever. But you're right about Gang Green having a rough season. New coach, Aaron Glenn. Jets fans are excited about him being back with the organization. He praised the team's sense of urgency after minicamp. What do you see from the offensive core of Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall, and also this Jets defense that makes you believe, or maybe not believe, that this Jets roster is ready to take the next leap?
Well, there's a lot here from last season, right? There was a lot of optimism over the last two seasons from Jets fans, right? When Aaron Rodgers came, it was, man, there's a chance at playoffs, Super Bowl. And a lot of that same core is here. This is still an elite defense. And when you bring over a defensive mind like Aaron Glenn, a player's coach, somebody who's been going through minicamp, getting to know the players, and you're hearing all these positive reviews, it signals nothing but positivity. And I think the expectations are a little bit different than they were with Aaron Rodgers. With Rodgers, it was, we got to win the division. We got to go to the Super Bowl. And now this team, maybe they don't have those same expectations, but there's also not those same pressures. This defense can go back to being elite and doing what they do best. Justin Fields, going from, Chicago, where he was kind of thrown away, to Pittsburgh, where he was still finding himself on a playoff roster behind Russell Wilson, now has the opportunity to play as the quarterback for a team that believes in him. And there's a different sense when the quarterback is believed in. There's not who's the starter and who's not. I think Justin Fields is in for a really good season. And you talk about, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, some of these weapons on the offensive side. The same expectations that were there last year have just gone to the wayside. So for me, I'm really excited about this core, and I think that they can get to doing some of the things that they weren't able to do last year. Breece Hall, I know they talked about a three-headed monster with him. I'm not worried. I think he's still a perennial playmaker. Garrett Wilson, there was a lot of excitement about him before Davante Adams came. So I'm at the stage where I believe this team, maybe they're not a playoff championship contender, but they could upset some people.
Okay, giving hope for Gang Green faithful out there. They're going to be excited about those words, so we'll see how that all plays out. Now, a player I want to talk to you about, because the Jets, they did part ways with Davante Adams. They do have rookie tight end Mason Taylor, who's been drawing some rave reviews. How can Taylor help fill that playmaker void in the passing game, and do you see value targeting him in fantasy here to draft?
Well, this team really doesn't have a true just standout second wide receiver, right? You got Arian Smith, rookie fourth round pick. You also have Josh Reynolds, who's been making a lot of plays in camp, but Mason Taylor can be a guy that moves the chains, big body tight end out of LSU. The team took him in the second round, and we're seeing kind of this wave of tight ends coming into the league and making an instant impact. We had Brock Bowers last year. We've seen Trey McBride, Sam Laporta come in over time. So these tight ends are being drafted and being a valuable part of the offense. Obviously, the passing game coordinator for the Lions is now the new offensive coordinator for the Jets. So we saw what Sam Laporta did in Detroit. We also saw what Cole Kmet was doing with Justin Fields in Chicago. So I think that there's a lot of potential here for Mason Taylor. I drafted this guy in Dynasty. So Jet fans, and I'm a sharp dude when it comes to fantasy. I drafted him, and this is a player that I think has sticking power and potential to be a second or maybe third option in the passing game behind maybe, obviously Garrett Wilson, but Breece Hall as well.
Okay, some value there for him too. And yes, you are a sharp guy when it comes to the fantasy. This is why we have you here to talk about all of this. This is exactly why it's happening. Now, Breece Hall, who you mentioned before, Justin, he's going to enter a contract year amid a committee backfield. Do you expect a bounce-back season for him, and is he a top 20 running back fantasy target given the offensive scheme and the way it might look this upcoming season?
Top 20. He might be top 10 this
Easy,
year in
still okay.
fantasy.
Some people,
And you know
some people
what?
were dropping him low. Justin is saying he might be lower than that. You say no.
It's crazy because last year we were taking him as a top 3 pick in fantasy. And this was a guy that all the expectations were there. He finishes the RB2 in fantasy and PPR leagues just the year before that. So now we hear Aaron Glenn say, I want to use all 3 of my running backs. Well, that's not a big deal to me. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs finish as the RB1 last year in Detroit. And if the offensive plan is similar, that was a very good situation for him. So you got Braylon Allen behind him. And I think this can make for a really good, replication of what they had in Detroit with their Sonic and Knuckles of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Now, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, there's high expectations for both, but you can see one is involved in the passing game, which I think Breece Hall be a valuable asset in the passing game. And then Braylon Allen, maybe we're seeing a little bit more of him in the red zone, some of those hard-earned yards on third down, third and short. So I think there's roles for both, and it keeps both players healthy. There's nothing wrong with having a fresh backfield, and I think Breece Hall is being disrespected because he disappointed people last year. You know how people play fantasy sometimes with their emotions. Breece Hall is going to be just fine. The talent is there. He's going to replicate the season that everybody wanted him to have and what he had 2 years ago. I'm in on Breece Hall.
All right. Don't be out here disrespecting Breece the Beast. We'll see what he can do. Justin says top 10 fantasy running back. No, top 20. Top 10 is what you want to do with Breece. Now, let's talk about Justin Fields here because we saw this past week he led 2 move the ball drives in wet weather and earned high praise from the head coach. How high is your confidence in him ending the franchise's QB woes? Because the Jets have had some. You know this. And do you think he could become a late-round fantasy QB with upside that folks should look into?
You know how it is. Like your first time on TV, Dex, you probably were a little stiff and making sure you said everything the right way and wanted to play the part. And then guess what? Over time, you loosened up and there got to a point where you're like, you know what? I am who I am. I'm on camera. I'm great. And that's what I think's happening with Justin Fields. He go from a rookie situation in Chicago where they're saying you're not the part. You're not the right quarterback. Then you go to Pittsburgh and you're like, am I the starter? Am I good enough or not? I'm playing behind Russ. I was outcast from Chicago. And now you go to a Jets team where they have all the belief in the world in you. And they're saying, hey, we're signing to a 3-year deal, giving you good money. Go be the face of our franchise. I have all the belief in Justin Fields, and now he's paired up with his college receiver in Garrett Wilson. This could be a really good situation for Justin Fields. We already know when he's healthy and he's playing well, he's a top 5 to 7 quarterback per game basis in fantasy. So why wouldn't he replicate that now? And if you give him the 15 to 17 games he's likely to play this year, we know the boy can use his legs and he can run 1,000 yards in a season. So for me, Justin Fields is a very high upside guy you can get late in your drafts. He's going outside of the top 12 quarterbacks right now. There's a chance he could return top 5 to 7 value. I actually really believe in Justin Fields this year and think he'll be a great value for people who draft him in fantasy.
All right, Justin believing in another Justin, and Justin did not make me feel good as a Steelers fan because it makes me be like, what were they doing with the switch? We're not even going to talk about that. Let's just look ahead. Looking ahead to the season, what kind of, we look at the win total, right? Or playoff prop would you back on the Jets? Because I know you do a little bit of the betting stuff too, especially if Fields, Hall, Breece Hall we talked about in the defense carried that minicamp energy we've seen going forward. Are there any sleeper bets that we should consider with this Jets team?
Well, the easy one for me to look at is the win total, 5.5 wins. And I think there's a lot of value there. But in order for that to happen, this offense has to click. And we talked about Justin Fields already, but I haven't talked about the obsession I have with Garrett Wilson this season. I think he's going to have an incredible year. He was already on pace for that until Devontae Adams came last year. And there was really high expectations for Garrett Wilson to take that next step. You hear minicamp right now, there's 200 target potential for this guy. And Garrett Wilson, when he plays, is an elite receiver. So for me, his receiving prop is at 950.5 yards. That's way too low for a guy that's probably going to be somewhere in the 1,300 range if he can play the whole season. Justin Fields, we saw what he did with DJ Moore. He hones in on his number 1 target. And guess what? Sorry, Jets fans, there's not a lot of other options in the passing game. So Garrett Wilson should see plenty of targets, plenty of opportunity. And I think that receiving prop is just a little bit too low in my opinion. Give me Garrett Wilson over 950.5 yards.
I wish you could have seen the face of not just myself, but also my producer in here. When you said 950, we were like, what? That is really low.
It's too low. It's for a guy that's a perennial Pro Bowler. That's way too low.
I'm stunned at that. I'm really stunned. If it was like, 1,050 or something or 1,100, That's a really low line. Get on that, folks. That's all I can say. Get on that before it changes, is all I will say. Last thing before we go, Justin, you know you're one of my favorite people to talk about in terms of betting, in terms of fantasy, of course. I know you have some things cooking. What do you have going on?
So I like to give out fantasy information and I like to help people out. And sometimes, on TikTok is where a lot of people see me or YouTube, but that's quick. I got an opportunity to have some NFL players at fantasy football training camp. We have NFL players, some of the top analysts in the fantasy and betting space. And it's going to be a 2-day event on August 2nd and 3rd. So make sure you guys get your tickets. And if you're watching right now, I got a freebie for you. FFTC free on FFTcamp.com. That's how you get a free ticket. Go ahead and, a little plug right there for the free ticket.
Hey, not bad there. Check that out. It's a really good thing. I love what Justin's doing. He's one of the best people in the fantasy football space. So when he tells you to hit that over on Garrett Wilson, I would advise you to do so. That's all I'm saying. That's my guy, Justin Henry. Please check him out. Support the work he's doing. Justin, always a pleasure to talk some fantasy football and football with you, period. We will do it again soon. We're going to link up really soon. Appreciate it, man.
Definitely got to do it again. Thank you.